right, hello. Welcome to yesterlore. So, I just have a couple little things to open up real quick. And then we will be good to start. What is currently on the screen will be explained shortly. All right. I think we're good to go now. Okay, welcome to yesterlore. Today, we are going to be doing something a little different. We will get back to spooky stories next week, but this week I wanted to do something special. It is part of a collaboration type thing that I'm doing with northseapoet, also known as Nico Solheim-Davidson, and what we are doing is we are going to be today translating a poem, or I guess multiple poems, into Old English, which is something that will probably take multiple sessions. I did just say that we're going to be getting back to spooky stories next week, and that is true. But next Saturday, I will be resuming the project stream thing that I started this past week, where I work on other non-yesterlore stuff on Saturdays. So we will be continuing this project then. There's no project stream this weekend because I'm busy this weekend, but the following weekend, so November 5th, will be when we're following up on this project. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what this project is. So, Nico the North Sea Poet, who you can find on Twitch here, if you're in the chat, and if you're watching this in the future, it's in the description, the link to their Twitch. Hello. Someone in the chat said hello. I don't know if the link sent before or after, but that is the link to North Sea Poet's Twitch. And I'm also going to put a link to November 5th. Yeah, that's when we're going to be resuming the project that we're starting tonight. Because next Friday at yesterlore, we're going to get back to spooky stories. I'm putting a link right now to their book. North Sea Poet has written a book called North Sea Rune Poems. I have it right here. And what this is, if you remember, if you watched several months back, isn't November 5th a holiday or something? Oh, it might be. It might be. Nope, I can't think of anything on November 5th. So, anyways, this book, if you remember several months ago, if you were watching live or keeping up with my YouTube, or if you have watched them in the playlist where you can find them, we did rune poems for several months in yesterlore. And these were poems that sort of go with each of the runes. And there were 3 rune poems that we read. We read the Old English rune poem, we read the Old Norwegian rune poem, and we read the Old Icelandic rune poem. And if you remember looking at those, or if you go watch those videos elsewhere, or go read them now, you will find that or you might remember that they were kind of difficult to interpret at times. So if you were trying to figure out, like, what is the meaning behind the name of this rune, it can be pretty difficult to interpret, and there's a lot of scholarly debate about a good number of those poems, as we discussed. What this book is, North Sea Rune Poems, is North Sea Poet has taken the runes of the younger Futhark. So these are the runes that we saw in the Old Norwegian and Old Icelandic rune poems. Hello, North Sea Poet is here in the chat. Hello, Nico. So what this book is, is, unlike those very difficult to read alliterative verse rune poems that are at times very opaque, difficult to interpret, the North Sea rune poems here are a lot more straightforward. It's written in some beautiful, what's the word I'm looking for? Free verse, which might make it a little bit more readable than alliterative verse tends to be, even in modern English. And while it's written beautifully and in poetry, it still gets a little bit more directly at the meanings of the runes' names than the rune poems themselves do. So if you want to read some more contemporary poetry that is still on the topic of runes and giving you an idea of what the runes are a little bit more directly than the sort of labyrinthine Old Norse and Old English poems that we read, then this would be a good book to read. The other awesome thing about this book is that it has been translated into Old Norse. Each poem has been translated into Old Norse by Kevin French. And the Old Norse is very faithful to the meaning in the modern English that it was composed in. And it's also in free verse, I would say. I've tried to scan some of the lines to see if they were in an Old Norse meter. They are not, because it is staying very faithfully to what northseapoet has written. So that's another cool thing about this book. So I definitely recommend you check this out if you're interested in rune poetry. I put the link in the chat a moment ago, but the link will also be in the description of the YouTube upload of this as well. And it is also very affordable, and it's not super long either. It's just poems. It's pretty good. I would recommend it. So what we're doing today is northseapoet is actually in the middle of writing another book. And what this book is a book of Northumbrian rune poems. And these are once again written in modern English free verse, and like the other one, are getting a little bit more directly at the meaning of the rune name than the Old English rune poem did, if you remember or have watched those streams. And what I will be doing today, with Nico's permission, is translating these into Old English. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And what I'm going to attempt to do, to the best of my ability, is actually translate them into Old English alliterative verse, just because I'm a lot more comfortable writing Old English poetry in alliterative verse. I don't think I've ever written an Old English poem in free verse, I must say. So that will mean that I might be having some difficulty sticking to exactly the wording that northseapoet has used in the Northumbrian rune poem. So these are definitely workshoppable. And like I said, this will just be the first stream we're going to do in yesterlore this week, and then I will continue working on this November 5th and subsequent Saturdays if it takes longer. It probably will, because poetry adaptation takes some time. So if there are no questions in the chat currently, I'm just going to go ahead and start getting into doing this translation work. So our first Northumbrian rune poem we have here, and I wonder... Oh, there is a question. northseapoet has a question. Hello. I'm going to zoom in just a tad. Alright, I'm also at the same time going to make sure I have the links ready for when I do. Is this being done in Northumbrian dialect of Old English? I am going to do my best, actually. So one of the things I was going to talk about is some features that this is going to have. Now, we don't have a ton of actual, like, manuscripts that come from Northumbria in Old English. Like, we have some, but the bulk of our Old English literature is in West Saxon. However, we do know that certain documents, even ones that are written in West Saxon, were originally written in Northumbria, and we do have some Northumbrian texts. And based on that sort of comparison, Old English linguists have sort of isolated some of the differences between the Old English dialects and some of the features of Northumbrian. Now, a lot of the vocabulary is going to be pretty similar. I think there are some words that I could think of if I tried really hard that are like, this is a Northumbrian word. Off the top of my head right now, it would be difficult. But the main difference is going to be sort of like pronunciation type things. Certain sound changes that happened in West Saxon do not happen in Northumbrian, and there are some other sound changes that happen in Northumbrian that do not happen in West Saxon, or like certain environments where things will change where they will not in other dialects. So I'm going to be trying to stick to those as I compose this. I might not be completely focusing on it the first pass through, but it will definitely be like a part of my revision process going through, like, did I remember to make this vowel different as it should be? So whatever reason Northumbrian is the better dialect. I prefer West Saxon to other dialects, not because it's the most written in, but just because aesthetically I enjoy how it sounds better. One feature of Northumbrian is it does not do a lot of the palatalization that it characterizes most other Old English dialects. So, for example, where in most other dialects the word for cold would be chald, in Northumbrian it's cald. And that's actually more closely related to the modern English word cold than chald is. There's one issue with West Saxon. They're southern. Okay. Valid opinion. I just like it aesthetically is all. I don't have a reason. I'm not like Wessex is the best. I'm not one of those people. I'm just a fan of how it sounds. There are some really cool, unique features to West Saxon that other dialects don't have, just like Northumbrian. Yeah. All right. So our first rune, just like it is in Old English. Now we will eventually find that some of these have been reordered from the Old English rune poem. Nico has his reasons for doing so. But the first rune is still the first rune that we have in the Old English. I actually have the Old English open as well, just for reference for me to look at if I need to. So this is feoch. It's probably cut off very strangely because of how I had to size the... Oh, no, it actually looks fine. Okay, yeah, this is feoch here. But we're gonna do feoch in this Northumbrian rune poem. So I'm just going to write feoch over here because it's still feoch. But what we're going to look at is what it says in modern English. I'm going to go ahead and read it if that's okay. The fire of the waves that gleams so bright on both land and well road, comfort it should be for any and all people, but hoarded by dragons in greed-stained halls, and strife though it may bring, good with it also brought, this son of the Swanland. I'm a big fan of some of these kennings that have been included here as well, I want to say. I did read ahead some of these already before. I've already read a good few of these poems. I haven't read all of them yet, though I haven't had the time to sit down. I wanted to go into this a little bit off the cuff. So, I think it's only ash, id, and whatever oak is called, ak, yeah, that I changed the order of that, and I slipped the Northumbrian ones, yeah, before the last rune. There are some Northumbrian runes that do not show up in the Old English rune poem. Yeah, I had a lot of fun using the kennings, not gonna lie. Yeah, I enjoy these kennings. So I'm going to try to preserve them as best I can if they fit with the alliteration. So, fire of the waves. So we're talking, feoch means, I think if you remember the Old English poem, it means like property, wealth. Originally it meant cattle, but it expanded, and then in modern English narrowed again to the word fee, but it means like wealth, money, property. So, fire of the waves that gleam so bright. Okay. All right, what I'm looking for is what I can alliterate here. I think this might end up being one line of alliterative verse. I might still like indent it to the next line, but just to match up with it, but it will be part of the same alliteration, I think, because fire of the waves I don't think is long enough for me to make an alliterative line. So if I wanted to just straight up translate it into Old English, it would be I'm trying to think what if I want to use the regular word for fire. Because it's poetry, there's like special poetic vocabulary I kind of am inclined to use. So I could use like alid or something like that. Liet or something. I might just go fire. I'm just trying to think if there's anything. So the word for wave is just Y. Although I think it might be way with a long E in Northumbrian. So yeah, it would be way with a long E. For wave, there are some other words for wave I could use, like etha. So I could use eth, because that could alliterate with, if I could think of a different word for gleam that doesn't start with a G. There's poetic vocabulary, if it's now it's stuff to learn when I read. My take on a poetic edda. Oh, that's exciting. You're going to do the poetic edda too. Okay, that's cool. I'm just going to start just prose translating right now. Of the waves. That gleams. I'm trying to think of what word for gleam I want to use. Because gleam, I don't remember if there's a verb for gleam. I know glam is the noun, gleam. But I don't remember the verb. If like glamion is a word or not. I think it, I mean, I could just make it one. That's allowed. But, and bright. The obvious word for bright is berg, but I could also do, well, actually it would be bricht in Northumbrian, but I'm gonna do Voluspa, and then the stories about Fofnir and Sigurd, but Lokasenna, because I can't be with insults and shit. Lokasenna would be hard to translate. Alright. While I'm thinking, I'm just going to keep translating, I guess. That's YS, or I could just say that's YS feed, and that would still be metrically correct for a half line. So if I go with these just kind of simple words, that would just, I would give me with either F or W that my first thing needs to alliterate with. And that's no good, because I can't think of any word for either bright or gleam that would be starting with either of those letters in Old English, which is a problem. So let me think here real quick. Maybe I need to pop out the Bosworth-Toller. Bosworth-Toller is a great Old English dictionary, and you can search headwords, but you can also search by definitions and translations, which is really nice, because then I could find some synonyms that I can't think of right now. So can I think word for bright that starts with L, maybe, because then I can use lay, which means flame for fire. So I could be like, Slay, sorry, I forgot to make this Wayus. Thaswayus, or Thaswayus lay, Martian. Okay. Yes, certainly go do that. Okay. Thaswayus lay, because then I could say I could maybe use the verb leeksan for gleam. That's a very poetic word for gleam, or I mean, it really means shine, but I think I've seen it glossed as gleam too, glitter. That gleams. if it gleams, and I have to remember not to do the West Saxon thing of leaks. It will be the leakseth. Do I want to just use bercht? I kind of want to use torcht instead, just because I feel like it. Because the thing is, like, leaksian can also mean to be bright, so I could just say switha. Leakseth switha. I'll use it there. Yeah, that's weis lay the leakseth switha. Literally, the flames wave, the wave of the flame, or sorry, the flame of the wave that shines brightly, so. Like it shines very brightly. Because then the alliteration is on L, and the first stressed syllable here is the alliterating L there. Okay, that works. If we did this all together, one line, it would look like this. I might, like, maybe do that to show that they're part of the same alliterative line there. On both land and whale-road. Ooh. Okay, so land doesn't... This could be a whole line, maybe, or... No, this could all be one line. Yeah, I could do something like... Ooh, okay. On Hruzan, and Hronrada. So Hruza means ground or land, and then Hron means whale. Hwal in Old English can mean whale, but it usually actually just means fish. And then Rad is the riding place of the whales. And this shows up in Beowulf, this kenning here, Hronrada. And these alliterate not just on H, but also HR, which is cool. Oh, but how do I fit in? That's not a full line is the thing, that's a half line. Wait, how many lines total are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. Okay, I was gonna say if there were 9, I might do a weird thing and try to write this in Ljóðaháttr, because then this could be like the C line of a Ljóðaháttr line. But I'm not gonna do that. On Hruzan, because this could be a half line here, but the on Hruzan isn't enough. There needs to be another stress syllable. I mean, I could include the word both, but that feels like... Okay. I could say... What can I do here? Yeah, I could do ba on Hruzan. I'm using the feminine here because they're both feminine words. Actually, rad and hruze are both feminine by happenstance. So, ba on hruzan, on rad. That feels strange to me, though. Using both there in this way feels strange in Old English. Both on land. Let's see. It gleams both. On both. On ranrada. But at least that's a full line now. Okay. Put a space there. Okay, cool. Okay, a comfort it should be. It frår shall for any and all people. This is perfect because there's a perfect formula for this that starts. I actually have a couple options for F here, if my alliteration is F here, which I'm going to do. I kind of want to use dugan here. Yeah. It frovor shall dugan. Okay, that syntax is bugging me though. No. To frovre der to frovre der fyra well, I feel like I equation might be more used in Northumbria, but I'm not sure about that. Okay, to each among people. That's a pretty common formula there. Okay, but hoarded by dragons in greed-stained halls. Looking for what I can. Maybe I don't want to use drakan because I have less things I can alliterate with D here, I think. I might just use gradi here. I could use yivra there, but that still needs a G in the first part. But hoarded by dragons. I could use wyrm, but then I get a W in the second half. I could use a different verb for hoard. I could use something like watch over. It should be a comfort for any and all people, but hoarded by dragons, greed, state halls, and strife. Wait. Okay, I'm getting a little lost by the syntax here now, all of a sudden in modern English. Okay, the fire of the waves that gleam so bright on both land and railroad, a comfort it should be for any and all people, but hoarded by dragons, and greed-stained halls, and strife, though it may bring good with it, is also brought. This son of the Swanland. Okay, so I might just not make this a past participle anymore and make it like a verb. I could just say like dragons hoarded. Drakan hit. Or I could say ak bewit tiath Drakan. No, it's not long. Drakan hit. Bewitiath hit. Oh no, the subject should come after the verb here. So Bewitiath hit Drakan. Bewitiath Drakan hit. I think the best thing to do, because we have a but here, I have a license to put the verb at the beginning, but I can also put the verb at the end. Drakan hit Bewitiath. Yeah. Bewitiath. Mid walum. Yivrum, I guess that would be. It's long, if it's in the dative. Yivra means, it can mean greedy, among other things. So I would say, yeah, yivrum. Midwalum yivrum. And strife, though it may bring good with it, is also brought. It's a little tricky. Trying to think. You win when this, though it brings about strife. So my alliteration has to be on W here. And I might be a little tricksy with this translation of good here. I kind of want to do I could actually I'm considering a couple things. I guess I'll voice this. It'll be more interesting to hear me voice this out loud. I'm thinking maybe I could use whale instead of good, because whale means more like it's more like prosperity, I guess, like or I guess could just use the nominalized one, huela, which means a similar thing, and they're two short syllables, which makes it equal when one syllable metrically, so that works. Swa, yeah, I could swa that. Swa, welan. The hit you win when it hit welan hit bringeth. No, I don't like bring on there. I don't like bring on there. Ooh, good with it also brought. And strife, though it may bring, good with it also brought. Maybe I do swa mid welan cometh. So too does it come. Likewise does it come. Actually, I might just use swilcha there instead. Swilcha mid welan cometh. So, I like swa. I might just do one swa. Swa mid welan cometh. So it comes. Actually, the swa is better for the also meaning there. So also it comes with good, like prosperity. This son of the swan land. Okay, so we only have one more line here. The way that this got broken down, it kind of worked out just because of where some of these alliterative pairs ended up being, but it didn't end up being even because we had one that just ended up being on its own, because I can't see another way to fit that into either the prior or the following line. So it kind of has to be its own, just kind of randomly have a full half line here. If I actually just mapped it out based on like where the half lines are, instead of trying to like be where the line breaks are in the original, it would look like this. This ends up being a pretty long line too, but it works. Thach the hit, you win wendeth, swa mid welan cometh. Yeah, that's metrical. It's just long. Maybe I need to make this smaller. Probably not, because of it already being small enough for people on there. Do I have? Anyway, not really. I don't have room to move that. Okay. You know what? I could just make this whole page. No, that will ruin my. I was going to say make it landscape, but I think that'll ruin the view. It's already a delicate balance with this OBS view. Okay, what I'm going to do then is, because it looks like there's lots of space here that I could drag this over, but if you go down, some of the lines are longer. What I might do is just, I'm going to put it back the way it was first of all, so that'll help. That's better probably for everyone. But yeah, it does put me in this weird situation where I have to make this son of the swan land longer, but I figured it out up here with the both on land and on on the railroad. And this is another Kenning Swan land, which I'm guessing is also meant to be the ocean there. That because Swanrad is also used, and Swanway and stuff like that. There is, with land, I'm thinking of the kenning that is usually used with Hual, Huales Edel, which is like the fish's like homeland, basically. And I might do something like that here. What's an ocean? The Old English are a good group to ask because they have lots of words for ocean, especially in poetry. This son of the Swanland. Okay, so son of the Swanland. So it's okay, but son is feminine, so I'll do theos. Sunne. I think what I need to do is, even though it's not in the original, I need something to fill the half line here. Because Swanland, of the Swanland, could be on the second half, and the swan part can alliterate with sun. So it'll be like the sun blank of the order. It has to start with swan, huh? Anglo-Saxon some names in my Old Norse poetry. I mean, sunna does show up in Old Norse too. Sunna with an A is the cognate there. I mean, sol is also cognate in both Old English and Old Norse as well. They're all from the same Proto-Indo-European root. It's just that kind of noun in Proto-Indo-European has a thing where, like, in some cases it's L and in some cases it's N, and Germanic just kind of spliced it into two separate words. Similar thing happened with root and wort. Yeah. So theos sunna, I'll do thas eve. Oh, well, no. Okay, if I'm putting swan first, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say I'm racking my brain real quick for what gender swan is. I'm like 90% sure it's masculine in Old English swan. Like, I just need to remember if it's swanas in Proto-Germanic. That's all I need to do, because if it is, then it's masculine. It's svanad in Old Norse, yeah, it's masculine. Unless there's some random gender switch. I mean, that does happen with the other word I was going to use. The word for land. It's neuter in Proto-Germanic, but it's masculine in Old English. So it's going to be thas, swanness. No. It's swanas, one N, so swannes. Swannes. Whoa. Sorry about that. A swannes edel. Of the Swanland, so edles. As well. Swannes edles. And the swanne here. Ooh. That is a little tricky, actually. This kind of breaks the meter a little bit. Kind of. It would if this word didn't start with a vowel. Thankfully, it does start with a vowel. I'm going to say it works because it's swanna sedla, because this starts with a vowel, so the S will be pronounced there, so that makes it two short, open syllables. Close one. Okay. Yeah, it's fine too, because I had well on up here as well. So the thing I need is I need something there to stress, because this is going to be its own line, just like baon hrusan on hanrada. What's because there's nothing else. I can't split it to the next line, and there's no other line to match it with because all the other ones are taken. So I think what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need a verb. This son, some of the Swanland, does something. I would prefer just some just intransitive verb that doesn't have much meaning, just like it sits there, it exists. So I could just use some kind of copular thing like could just use Lijan, maybe. Or I guess it would be Ligan. Ligan in Northumbrian. Yeah, I could do that. And I guess I'll put it at the beginning too, so I kind of don't. Yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah, Leith. I almost feel like it would just be Leith in Northumbrian. But yeah, Leith theos sunna thaswanes edles. Just like the it's often, like with Lijan, you can just translate it as like to be somewhere. So this son of the Swanland exists somewhere. Lilith, no, Leah, lies. It lies somewhere. It exists in a place. So added a word without adding much additional meaning to the line. Okay, so we've got our first rune poem. If this works as a draft, I still need to comb it over for Northumbrianism, but we've got Thas weis lei the lixeth suida, ba on hruzan andun ranrada. To frovre hit da fira je hidkum, ak drakan hit bewitjath mit walum ivrum. Thach the hit je winwendeth, swaswa mit welan kumeth, ligeth theos sunna thas swanes edles. Okay, we've got a rune poem down. I do not understand that emote, so I'm just going to leave that where it is. Okay, so technically we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 alliterative lines here. I almost expected to have 5 just because I thought like I could somehow squeeze each of the original lines into like a half line, but some of these were pretty thick, like this one. And so I had to improvise, I guess. So it's 6 rather than 5 here, but that's fine. We'll see how we fare in the next one. Okay, so we've got ur here next. Ur. It's a yay emote. It's moving so fast. It just looks like, to me, it looked like the emoji. So it's someone going like yay, like this. But to me, it looks like the emoji of like someone getting their hair done, or it's like 2 arms going on their head. That's what it looked like to me because it's moving so quickly. Okay, yeah, we got one down. That is the wrong diacritic. Why is there an umlaut on that U? Okay, there we go. Oh, I know why there's an umlaut on the U. I know why that happened. Okay. Whoa. Okay. So I keep accidentally, like, right-clicking one more time, which takes me to the bottom of the table, because this is a table. That's how I have them, like, side by side. I didn't use columns because that always is a formatting nightmare. So I just put them into a table. But what that means is if I right-click, and this is the last part of it, it just takes me to the end. Easier to use the runes as the titles. Wait, what do you mean you use the runes as... What? Is that not what we're doing? Oh, you mean like the actual runes, like type them out? I do not have a way to type those easily on my computer. I would have to like open a rune keyboard if I wanted to do that. Because there still isn't any kind of keyboard support for runes. At least that I've been able to find. I've looked. If you have one, that would be awesome. I just end up, if I'm on desktop, I end up just going to the page that has just the runes written out. I just go somewhere where I have them, like for example this document, I have them here, and copy paste. If I'm on mobile, I have an app where I can type them, but yeah, it's a nightmare to try to do. That's why I'm not. I don't mind typing Old English words. I'm just gonna copy paste them. Yeah, it works. It's pretty much the only way until we get a good keyboard that's installable. Alright, kindred of the calf, a great horned beast that once stood and roamed, so fiercely proud upon the moors, a savage fighter unrelenting, a stubborn being unchanging, treading the boundaries between the wild and cultured, and in life refused to bow, and only in death tamed. There's an app for writing runes, yeah. I guess I'll put this in the description too, when I'm done. yeah, so it is called Rune Typer. It's just Rune Typer. And when you open it, whenever you open it, it automatically has written on it Westuhal in Old English runes. It's chiefly for like the Anglo-Frisian runes. So you don't really get like that kind of thing, but you can switch. So like automatically it's on the Futhorc, but like you can see like you can switch to Elder Futhorc, or Elder Futhark, sorry, the long branch and short twig. And it also has a beta Old English keyboard, which all it really does is it's, Roman letters, but then it has win there. It has a long S, a regular long S, not an insular long S, and then an insular G. It doesn't have insular D or T or anything like that, but it also has the Turonian note, the and symbol, so it looks like a 7, and it has the that ligature, the thorn with the line through it. I haven't really used this one because I'm able to type most of those on my phone. But yeah, Anglo-Frisian runes, that's more runes to write about. Oh, when I say Anglo-Frisian, I just mean the Futhorc, the Old English runes. I call them Anglo-Frisian because there are some Frisian manuscripts that use them as well. They're not exclusive to Old English. So it's just like, I guess, more of an inclusive name for them. They're the Futhorc. That's more runes to write about to avoid writing about Elder Futhorc. I've actually personally wanted to write Proto-Germanic rune poems for a really long time with Elder Futhorc. One of these days, maybe I'll do it in a project stream or something, but when it comes to the runes that disagree between the different traditions, it's hard to choose for me. Like with the K/C rune, like do I go with Cone or do I go with Cain? I think going with Cone feels like it's probably the more likely original one, just because Cain could have come from a cognate that just didn't survive, and then they reassigned it to a different meaning. But I also like the meaning of Cain better than Cone, because to me it feels a little redundant when there's already Thorn / Thors in the set. I don't know. They have very similar meanings to me. All right, I'll do rune poems, and then you can translate. Yeah, we could do that. I might get to them sooner because it sounds like you have a lot of other projects going too, but so do I. Okay, I think I want to get at least some of the way into this rune poem before we call it a day or I guess call it a night in my case. And we'll return to do more of this next Saturday, November 5th. So, Kindred of the Calf. Okay. Kindred of the Calf, a great horned beast. With this one, I can see a lot of the influence from the Old English rune poem, like the proud upon the moors. That's pretty much taken from this, and the greatly horned. That's in the first line of the Old English as well. So yeah, I like how this was adapted here. Kindred of the Calf. Okay. Kindred of the Calf. I mean, I guess because it's an aurochs is why that's being said there. Like it's the ancestor, I guess, of cattle. So that would make sense. TBF, my next project should be a book about Brythonic and Gallic polytheism. That's cool. What do you mean when you say Gallic, Gallic? That's a little ambiguous to me, because I'm not sure if you mean like Gaelic or if you mean like Gaulish, or something else. That would be interesting. The next project should be a book about Brythonic and Gallic polytheism. That would be really interesting. And then a devotional to Aed. That's also interesting. That's why I started with Kindred of the Calf. Okay. Gallic as in Gaul. Okay, I was just checking that. That's what I thought, because Gallic wars. But next to Brythonic, I was a little unsure. Epic. How's epic? I will definitely be awaiting that. Thanks, Irish and Scottish, if I remember correctly. Yes. So I want to think about how I want to say this, because there are some different possibilities with different alliterations. But I'm thinking about horned beast, and in the Old English, I might borrow something from the Old English, just overhidden, overly horned, basically. Or we talked about it could be like horned above or overly horned, depending on where you put the space, but the meaning is close enough either way to where it doesn't matter all that much for the meaning. So if I want to keep that and use like overhörned or something close to it, then I would want to have vowel alliteration somewhere. And the main words for kindred I'm thinking of are like maith, kin, or just my, sib. And none of those really alliterate with anything that would be in the second half, so that's what I'm struggling with. Unless I make it not the part that alliterate, I can move the like horn part to later. I think what makes the most sense to me is to use my. My. I just want to use some kind of compound that starts with a different letter. On either side. I don't vibe with Gaelic that much. My practice is more Norse leaning with hints of Brittonic, which reminds I need to write the rune poems as well. Oh, that would be cool. I think I remember you mentioning that. This is a tough one to start with. It is true that I don't have to go in order either, is it? I could start later in the line and see what works retroactively. Okay. Asaithas Calvis Sib. So I've got C or S there. If I go with that. Actually, maybe there is something I can do. If I can come up with some kind of compound for this, then what I can do is use gnat for, because there's a word for beast that's gnat, right? Right, my break is over, so I'll catch the rest of this when the VOD is up. Hope the rest of the stream goes well. Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for letting me do this project. I hope you have a great rest of your night. Okay, so gnat. Because what I'm thinking is I could do something that starts with an N in the first half. I think there's a way to do this. Because I think there's a word that means relative that's even closer. Like, I think it's nahmai that I'm hearing, that I'm thinking of. Nahmai. So not just my, but nahmai. That means near kinsman. So the near kinsman of the calf, nat overhyrnet. Now I'm doing something that I think is a little bit different than the Old English rune poem, because I will say I lean more towards the space, just because over needs to be stressed to be the alliterating word here, and personally I would expect overhyrnet to be stressed on hyrnet here, because over often gets unstressed when it's a prefix. So I think over is its own word here. Overhyrnet, like horned on top. But I'm definitely making it overhyrnet here just so that it's one here. Because when you have a compound like this, you actually have like two ways that you can scan this. You could say this is two stresses, over and hyrnet. But you can also scan it as one. It just depends on the context that it's in and the other stresses in the line. But yeah, I'm not going to put a space there just to make it very clear, like overhyrnet, the stress is on hyrnet here, hyr. So nat overhyrnet, a greatly horned beast, which is very close to what it says in modern English, so that works great. That once stood, okay. Say, that once stood and roamed so fiercely proud upon the moor. So that's taken from here. It's here. It's Simor, or Mara Morstapa, the famous moor walker, or moor stipper. That is Modi Wucht. It's the Modi proud there. Savage fighter, yeah, it says Fella frekna deor feuchtes, the fierce, or like very savage or very fierce beast fights. So I might preserve some of that here. Because I know that alliterated, so I might just copy the Old English there. Yeah, might do this here. Fella frekna deur. And in Old English it's feuchtet mit hornum, fights with horns, but here it's savage fighter, unrelenting. So it's fella frekna deur. I think this should be fella frekna, almost, because where the stress needs to go. Yeah, fella frekna deur. But here it's fighter. Now fighter wouldn't really play because savage in the fight on feuchte. Unrelenting needs to go here. Okay, so I'm skipping around here. I think this is where we're going to have to stop because it's 8:07 now for me. So we are going to stop here. And this project, if you want to follow up on it, will continue on November 5th, next Saturday. Yesterlore will go back to spooky Middle English poetry next Friday. So that is the plan. Thank you for everyone who is present tonight. Thank you again, northseapoet, if you're watching this in the future, for participating with me in this project, letting me translate your poems. This is very fun. And anyone who's watching this in the future, thank you. And have a great rest of whatever time zone you are in. I will see you next week. Farewell.